A weekend that began with a low-speed parade of high-powered racing machinery down a mile of Wisconsin country roads from the famed Road America circuit to the village of Elkhart Lake now takes on a faster pace. The cars and the stars of the Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS, have spent the past 36 hours honing their machines for this, the first of two 90-minute clashes around the world-famous 14-turn, 4-mile-long venue that is a thrill and a challenge in equal measure. Hello everyone, welcome to America's National Park of Speed, Road America. My name is Ryan Marine with Calvin Fish alongside. Shea Adam is deputizing for Amanda Busick down in the pit lane here today as we get set to see the cars roll out for the formation laps, Calvin. The weekend so far has been dominated by two storylines. One is the weather, the other is Mercedes. The weather really hasn't shown up as a storyline here today, but the Mercedes sure have.
It really has, Brian. It's really been the car to beat around this circuit, and they sweep the front row qualifying positions for today and for tomorrow's race, so they're going to be tough to beat here. The weather, as you mentioned, certainly thrown a spanner in the works in terms of the team's preparation. We had a very damp free practice one yesterday. Teams, drivers didn't get a lot of track time, and I think that certainly showed up as a consequence in qualifying for today's race.
Looking at the conditions as they stand right now, but there is a chance for some rain before this race is all said and done. Certainly some before the day is done is anticipated here in Elkhart Lake. Let's talk about the track, Calvin. It is a classic venue, 14 turns, high speed, high commitment, everything a racing driver would love.
It's a special one. It's really a treat to be here on site. I love the vibe of Elkhart Lake, the whole scenery around this circuit, but the racetrack itself, 4 miles, super challenging, super quick. 3 times these GT3 cars will be hitting about 165 miles an hour, and big, deep brake signs like we're looking at here in turn 5.
We can talk about it, or we could show it to you, which I think is what we'll choose to do. This is our track preview of Road America.
Hi, I'm Erin Vogel, and this is the Porsche track preview here at Road America. We're coming down the home straight. This is coming at turn 1. Brake hard after the access road. You want to start bending it in a little early. You'll catch a lot of rubber right there, so it feels really good when you know you've got the apex. A little bit wide over those rumble strips coming down past turn 2, which is really just a kink, into turn 3. Braking zone downhill, light off the brakes. A lot of throttle coming out of here. This is a long straight, so you really want to get turn 3 right. A lot of time here to kind of take a breath, relax, check your traffic. Want to try to, even though it's a straight, it's not really that straight, so you still always want to try to drive the shortest line you can here, coming down into turn 5. Hard brake between the 200 and 300 marker, try to get as wide as you can. Holding that brake way long because we're coming downhill, and then on the throttle coming back uphill into turn 6. Turn 6 is just about balance. Really light brake as you crest the hill. If you have too much brake, it gets really light in the rear. Coming around here into turn 7. Turn in on throttle lift, back to throttle, and away we go. Down into turn 8, we come downhill in this braking zone, so again, it doesn't feel like it wants to slow, and then all of a sudden it catches up. Now we're exiting turn 8 over the rumbles a little bit. You gotta be careful there, they can catch you out. Coming into the carousel, upshift, a little short shift, and then you just stay on the throttle until you feel the car want to start to push, and as you're coming around down the hill, you're trying to add throttle, then you come uphill here and way on the throttle, down this straight, into the kink. This is the most exciting part. Little lift, back to throttle. You're barely off the throttle here. You're going to use all that downforce. Down the straightaway into Canada corner. We're getting ready here. You always tap the brakes, make sure they're there. Hard brake, long braking zone here, and again, like turn 1, kind of bend it in, get those rumble strips. A lot of room on the exit there. Coming into turn 14, this one's kind of tricky too. Another no braking corner, just a lift and go. A lot of throttle coming out of there, a lot of track there. We can use all that access road, and coming in the last turn, 14. This one's a tricky one. It's hard to keep the car balanced. You just do what you can so you can get back to throttle early and have a nice drive out of that corner. And here we are coming back into the start-finish line. You saw pit lane there on your right, and that is your Porsche track preview here at Road America.
A great ride on board that real-time Acura NSX GT3 Evo, thanks to Erin Vogel, former race winner in this series, going back to VIR last year. This is the hometown team, Calvin. I know they had high hopes coming into the weekend, but it just has not gone their way.
Continues to be a little bit of a struggle for this group here. They celebrate their 100th team win here back in 2019 with Dane Cameron, Mike Hedlund. Great history here, of course, but haven't quite found the sweet spot in qualifying. Had a good podium run a couple of events ago, so there's potential there, but been a bit of a head-scratcher, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that one third-place finish in the first race of the weekend at Watkins Glen, but beyond that, best finish of 5th this season. Just not the season that any of us expected when you look at that driver lineup of Aaron Vogel, Michael Cooper, coupled with the real-time racing team making its return to the championship for the first time in a while. Another team that has not found its footing this weekend is K-Pax, and that's not normally the storyline all season pretty much. And going back to last year, too, we've talked about them as the dominant team, but that has not carried over to Elkhart Lake.
No, I spoke to Thomas Bland, the strategist there at K-Pax after this morning's qualifying session. He said we're just quite honestly struggling. The one car we struggled all season long. Can't really seem to get a handle on that. With Caldarelli in round 2 qualifying about a second off his teammate, Jordan Pepper. That is significant between two really mighty Lamborghini drivers there. So we'll have to see if they can sort of like work the magic. They always seem to come out on top, but we saw them coming out of a race weekend without a victory at the last rounds at Watkins Glen. And for Caldarelli, he'd gone 10 straight in terms of the race that he competed in GT World Challenge America, dating back to the end of the part of last year. So he'll want to bounce back quickly here today, but a lot of work to do for this camp today.
No doubt about that. This is the sister car, Jordan Pepper and Misha Goikberg, the driving talent. Michele Beretta teamed with Andrea Caldarelli, as he has been for much of the season, in the black #1 K-Pax Lamborghini. But on the flip side, it is the 2 Mercedes that swept the front row in both qualifying sessions this morning, just in inverse orders, going back to qualifying. Windward and US Racetronics, both of which are looking to put some bad luck behind them, and they have a good starting position with which to do that today. Let's welcome in the third part of the broadcast crew, and that is Shea Adam.
Thanks, Ryan. On the pit lane, the storyline obviously is looking at the Mercedes locking out the front row, but who am I looking at? That would be Bimmerworld, because Chandler Hull in qualifying put the BMW ahead of all the other Pro-Am contenders, but also well up in the front of the field. I believe the second row of the grid for this M4 GT3. This is a car that will be fast because they have a secret weapon to plug in at the end of the race, that being the one and only Bill Oberlin. But also this team doing a little bit of a rain dance, because if the wet stuff comes from the sky at the end of the race and they've got Billy in the car, things are going to go well. Keep an eye on the number 94.
That's a great call for sure, and it was a wonderful qualifying effort this morning for Chandler Hull to take the pole for the second, make that the third time on the season within the class, but to start as far up as he is, 3rd overall, really remarkable performance.
It really was, and that rain dance, well, I'm looking at my weather app, and it says in about 45 minutes, good chance of rain here. So what do you do with the setups? Do you gamble on the rain coming, and that's what you want your car to be the best at, or do you compromise it here for the first half of the race?
Well, there is a lot of strategy in play, and it's not just with the setup, but think about this. What is the race format in GT World Challenge America? Well, it's a pit stop 45 minutes into the race. So do you wait as long as possible thinking the rain is coming so you can get straight onto the wets, or do you gamble and come a little bit early? The strategists are going to make their money today.
They are, and certainly if there's a threat, you're going to keep these cars out as long as you can and make sure you don't have to come down pit lane one more time to switch over to the wet weather tires. So lots to play for here this afternoon.
No doubt about that. This has been a quick car all season in the AM class. Charlie Scardina qualified for this race, and he starts 6th overall. Not the first time we've seen a giant slaying performance out of Charlie. He is a good driver behind the wheel, and there's a reason that they are tops in the AM class, and it's not just because they've been unopposed a few times. No,
really, really potent combination. Their team is great. They lost their other car, unfortunately. Justin Weatherall had an incident in the GTA practice session, got involved with a GT4 car, high-speed shunt down in Canada Corner, so their car was destroyed, and they also lost one in recent testing here, so they will not participate in any further action this weekend in either class.
Saw George Kurtz a moment ago. He's fresh off of a runner-up finish in the GT America powered by AWS sprint race earlier today. Nearly won that race despite being spun on the opening lap, but he's driving with a lot of confidence coming off of a win at Spa, testing a Formula One car here recently. It's good to be George Kurtz.
Good to be George, and he and Colin Brown coming off a brilliant overall victory at Watkins Glen in the last round of this championship, so they're on a high. See, I think they've got the ultimate pace maybe this weekend, but we'll have to wait and see if they can turn the knobs on that crowd strike machine and find a bit more pace here come race time.
You say that, but in his leg of the qualifying, Colin Brown had his lap deleted on his third flying lap, and that was the lap that everyone figured was going to be when the tires were at their peak. So I'm not sure we've totally seen everything that they have in store just yet, and that could make for an interesting race with them starting a little bit towards the middle of the field for race 1 here today. That's a look at the car in question. Riley Motorsports, the team, so much experience with this chassis and so many others.
Yeah, I mean, just as you said, experience is the key word there. Bill Riley's a legend, I mean, in terms of designing race cars and also engineering them. So it's really been a potent combination since they made the switch over from DXDT. This is Colin and George we're talking about with the CrowdStrike Racing entry over to Riley Motorsports. It's had a lot of success already. They lead the championship. They've had 3 wins. That lead right now is 21 points over Jan Halen and Charlie Luck, who started the year with a sweep of the weekend at Sonoma. Also had a win at Watkins Glen, but have a 21-point deficit right now coming into this weekend.
Jan Halen's got some work to do if he wants to repeat as the Pro-Am champion with a different co-driver 1 year to the next. We were on board a moment ago with Russell Ward in the Windward car. On board now with the real-time car, Aaron Vogel, who took us on that tour of the racetrack earlier. And like you said, that's a car that maybe didn't qualify well, but they feel good about what it can do under race conditions. And the BMW M on board with Michael Dynan. He'll share this car with Robbie Foley. They've had their share of misfortune this weekend, too.
Yeah, lost a half shaft in practice early yesterday, and the first session was kind of tempered with mixed conditions, so Michael didn't get any laps prior to qualifying here this morning, so did a really nice job in terms of lining up 7th on the grid, 5th in the pro class, so expect a bit more from him once he gets dialed into the circuit. Did test here recently. He and Connor Di Filippi actually tested together when Robbie Foley was busy over with some commitments in Europe.
Let's take a look at that starting grid for race 1 of the weekend. Keep an eye on the screen for your favorite team or driver. Russell Ward will start on pole for Windward Racing. Stephen Agacani alongside. Those two will be in the opposite position for race 2 tomorrow. Chandler Hall on the Pro-Am pole. He'll start 3rd overall with Misha Goldberg next to him. Michele Beretta all the way back in 5th is the top K-Pax car with Charlie Scardina, AM-class pole sitter, starting 6th. Michael Dynan, George Kurtz make up row number 4, 7th and 8th respectively. Charlie Luck and Scott Smithson back in row 5. Aaron Vogel and Ashton Harrison, row 6. David Askew and Jeff Burton in row 7. Kyle Washington and James Safronis, who are making their series debut this weekend, will start 15th with Frank Gannett taking up the 16th and final starting position here for the weekend. The cars are starting to come into their alignment. They'll approach the VP acceleration zone here in a few moments. We're about to turn them loose for the first of 2 races here this weekend.
Single formation laps, you've got to be up on the wheel and ready to go. It'll be the 2 Mercedes leading this field to green. Watch for Chandler Hull from the inside of row 2 in the Bimmer World M4. See what he can do here on this start.
Now we've seen that BMW can be good on starts and restarts. Michael Dynan put that on firm display in the last round at Watkins Glen. He too might be one to keep an eye on. But for now, we focus on the front of the grid. To the left-hand side of the screen, Russell Ward. To the right, Stephen Agacani, a pair of Mercedes from rival teams into the VP acceleration zone, and Russell Ward blitzes ahead. He'll grab the top spot. Agacani settles into 2nd. The fight is on for 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, and everything further back.
Here we see Agacani flick to the outside here. Look at Michael Dynan moving around the middle of the pack in the blue-colored BMW, trying to find his way through. He gets inside Scardina there as they exit turn 1.
How about Beretta on the move? He gets to the outside of Hull. He'll grab the 4th spot away. Dynan also jetting forward. It'll be BMW versus BMW and a spin for Agacani. It backs everyone up and there's contact. George Kurtz is involved. Aaron Vogel is involved. This will surely bring out a full course yellow, just 2 corners into the race.
Yeah, I'm not sure if Stephen just dropped the wheel there, exiting turn 3 and just flashed back across the pack.
Is that another car off to the left? That looks like Dynan.
Wow.
Oof. Some big hits it looks like there on that initial start. Ward got away. K-Pax now suddenly finds themselves 2-3. We've seen this story before.
I know, it's like they look vulnerable and suddenly they're in the pound seats in terms of their track position.
They're still on it. Now we go full course yellow and the pace will come down. That looked like a big debris field at the exit of turn 3, and there you
Big
see
damage to the right front corner on the crowd strike entry. Is gone.
And George trying to drive away. I'm not sure it's going to happen for him this time. Think about the implications of that. That is the points leading car in Pro-Am.
Oh, that's going to be a 0-point score.
No question. And Charlie Luck got through. Well, shows why it's valuable to start on pole.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they had any. I'm not sure if there's any communication between the two Mercedes camps and how to control that start. But certainly Russell brought them up very slowly. He's entitled to do that. And then once they get into that VP Fuels acceleration zone, he's up the pole sitter to go. Let's take another look at this. We come down into turn 3.
It'll be on the left-hand side of the screen. Agakani already around.
Yeah, just relatively cold tires. They do come out the tire warmers. And there's Dynan who clips him. And then George was avoiding the Mercedes, and then I think he got clipped by Aaron, and that turned him into the stricken Mercedes. Dynan there is just blinded. Got Chandler Hull right in front of him.
Nowhere to go for poor Michael Dynan. This is Vogel here. See a lot of bodywork damage, but if that's all it is.
So he'll come in and they'll make sure their car is safe. Try and tidy up a little bit. Look, Agakani just under power coming off turn 3, just lost the rear end.
Normally you might say something about cold tires, but of course tire warmers are in play in this championship. They might not be totally up to optimum temperature.
Or Spinelli's just got to be thinking, how does this keep happening to us? I mean, they have fast cars week in, week out, and just never can break through and get that win.
Well, this is what I'm curious about here. Just how serious is this damage? If it's just the bodywork panel.
Yeah, I'd be paying attention to the corner. There we go.
Mm-hmm.
Have a good luck. You got some time. It's a long lap here. Getting Aaron back out before the pack comes around. They should have plenty of time to work with.
Some other moves of note. Now, some of this is aided by 4 cars effectively being involved in that incident, but we see Ashton Harrison up 5 spots, now runs in 3rd in Pro-Am. We see Frank Gannett up several spots. Jeff Burton with a new team. We haven't talked about that yet this weekend, but switching over to the TR3 team, which started the season running a car for Ziad Gondor and a couple of different co-drivers. They missed Watkins Glen. Jeff Burton now running out of that tent and hoping that that's something that's going to be the case for the rest of the season. But he's up a few spots on that start just by keeping the nose clean. Not the same, unfortunately, for Aaron Vogel. More from the pits with Shea.
There's some damage to the left rear of this real-time Acura. They think it's some intercooler damage, but it is fixable. And Erin, when she brought the car back into the pit lane, did say it was drivable. The same cannot be said for the CrowdStrike Mercedes. However, the crew saying they think they're done. They were going to get the flatbed to help them bring the car back to the pits and then examine it further. And Robbie Foley of Turner saying, quote, "It's bad." So that was not the start that many of these teams were looking for.
Thanks, Shea. Yeah, heartbreaking. You put so much work into these weekends, and to not even get through 3 corners of racing is absolutely gutting.
Yeah, and for the BMWs too, there's not a ton of spares available. I mean, that car, new generation car for this year. I think Turner just did receive delivery of a backup car, just looking big picture ahead. So when Foley says it's bad, like how bad is it? Is it like chassis damage bad in terms of they will not participate this weekend and got a struggle to be around for Sebring? But looking at the car there, it doesn't look like it's destroyed. Certainly just ripped the corner a little bit.
It was interesting looking in that onboard shot, right? You had that rear-facing camera screen, and it had the fancy obstacle avoidance dots showing up on it, but no amount of technology is going to help you in that situation. He was just unsighted, and yeah, that was a big old hit, that's for sure. Aaron Vogel released by the team.
Yeah, they even if it's not complete task in terms of the fix, they need to get her out, stay on that lead lap, bring her back in if necessary. Just got to play a bit of a game here with cat and mouse with the safety car.
How many times this season have teams like K-Pax, for instance, shown us that all you got to do is stay on the lead lap, stay in contention. These are long old races at 90 minutes. Might not sound like it, but a lot can take place. And you can go from your day looking like it is totally ruined to right back in contention with the flip of a switch, the way some of these races have played out.
Good opportunity here with being constrained by the safety car in the pack for Aaron to really drive at a bit of speed here and get a true feel for what the car feels like. However, you've got to be careful the tires aren't up to temp like you normally have when you're jumping back out on the racetrack.
I think we've got another replay coming of the start to this race. There you see Michele Beretta, who has jumped up into second. He was the big mover. Watch that black Lamborghini from a ways back, was able to knife through this traffic, following his teammate Goldberg around the outside of Chandler Hull.
Russell did a really nice job from the pole position. He's got a 2-length lead on Agakani as we go through turn 3, and then just look there, Agakani just underpowered, just loses the rear end. Dynan unsighted clips him. And then George Kurtz looks like he's going to avoid the Mercedes, but he just gets clipped a little bit by Aaron there.
Shot says it all. The sound effect really drives the point home. That was a big hit.
Here's how that suspension came back and what it did to the front end bulkhead and chassis of that BMW.
Well, it's especially true this year. Everybody has heard about it in their line of work, I'm sure, but supply chain, right?
Yeah.
That's been the big talking point, and it's certainly been true in the racing world. Everything from spare parts to tires to consumables on these cars, everything is at a premium. And we've had some big accidents over the course of this season, as you're going to have. It's part of the sport, unfortunately, but that is straining some of these supply chains that are already, in some instances, at a breaking point.
It really is. I'll tell you what I don't like is the debris field that these drivers are having to kind of go through. It didn't look like there was a clear lane. So Misha Goikberg certainly running over a bit of debris there, and these carbon fiber shards will really cut down one of these Pirellis pretty quickly if you catch it at the wrong point.
Mr. Charles Scardina survived all that chaos. That one's 5th overall, best placed and class car. Has competition this weekend from GMG, their first start of the season in this series, with Kyle Washington and James Sifrone. It's great to have James back in the driver's seat. Of course, he's been around these race weekends. GMG is so busy on a race weekend with seemingly a dozen cars under their tent. I'm sure it's not quite that many, but it feels like it. All these different programs that they're running, multiple manufacturers that they're associated with, but when the time comes, James knows what to do behind the wheel.
Yeah, I had a chat with him yesterday. He's very excited to be back. He said Kyle was going to be competing here in GTA, and then he suddenly got on the phone and said, hey, would I want to double up? You want to join me? James said, of course I will. But James is one of those guys, he leads this team first for his customers, and if he gets the opportunity to jump behind the wheel, that's secondary. But I said, how are you feeling these days? He went through a shoulder rehab recently. He said, well, the other one's giving me grief. He said, I'm doing a lot of half-court basketball practice with my young son, Jensen. So he's giving me a lot of stick. So I'm in pretty good shape. I may need a little bit of a tune-up on the old body still.
So many years in this championship did James Sifronis finally broke through and won that championship in 2017, what was then Pirelli World Challenge GTA title, won both Sprint and Sprint X, repeated the feat in his class in 2018, and we haven't seen him quite as regularly since then, as you said, focusing on the customer component of the business. But someone with such rich heritage racing here in this series, going back to its previous guises. And he'll be driving with Kyle Washington in this machine once that mandatory pit window comes into play.
Yeah, and he's pretty pumped about the progress that Kyle has been making. He said we're really trying to give him a lot of seat time, give him a lot of experience, and he's coming along nicely, and he did a really good job earlier today in the GT America event.
Kyle's background is in off-road racing, trophy trucks, things of that like, and he has done some work as a team owner as well as driver in trophy truck racing. Won his class in a 400-mile race in Baja several years ago, making the transition over to road racing. And another one of these guys that has decided to jump into the deep end, but has good coaches around him, a good support system in GMG, and that helps to accelerate the learning curve.
Yeah, and a big personality, fun guy, really takes this racing very seriously. He's very focused on dedicating enough time and resources to getting the job done, as we see Aaron Vogel back in pit lane once again. They'll continue to tweak on this as long as this safety car is out there.
Coming into the attention of the team. Nice lollipop work. Get that car stopped on its marks. And they'll continue to work there just to make sure there's clearance, make sure that body work is as flush as possible. Aerodynamics being as important as they are here at Road America.
Mario Carini on the lollipop doing yeoman's work. He's a neighbor of Nathan Bonneau here in Elkhart. They have holiday homes, their family, so good to see him there. You see him there in the backdrop there. Son of Gino, who's worked with us before on this broadcast team. So great to see the family here this weekend enjoying Elkhart Lake. And it'll be disappointing to see this car in the pit lane. Use that lollipop a few too many times already today.
But it's still running. That's the good news. Same cannot be said for Kurtz, Dynan, and Agakani. Two of those three. Turner Crew certainly has had their share of misfortune this year. Agakani and Spinelli have chronicled it seemingly every weekend. Something pops up, whether it's of their making or not. Just not able to put a full race weekend together, even when they've shown such great speed. Really, it's just the first major ding for Kurtz and Brown. You know you're going to have a few of these over the course of a season. They've done a nice job maximizing their weekends elsewhere, though.
They have, but they're on the back foot here this weekend now, so we'll have to wait and see what the strategy will be if they can repair that car. I believe Georgia has a separate car like the GTA competition, so that could possibly be a backup or an alternate option for tomorrow's race, but they may give up their grid spot, I think, if they switch chassis.
Now that is a question for tomorrow. For now, their day is done. It will be their first non-point scoring result of the season. There's Ashton Harrison in the Racer's Edge Acura, graduate of the HPD GT3 Academy, made her debut racing in the Indy 8-hour last year. Raced at Sebring in the famed 12 hours earlier this year, and has been, in my estimation, one of the breakout performers of the season.
Yeah, just really been impressed with her attitude, her discipline, her focus, and her speed. I mean, just really putting some tremendous performances. She loves working alongside Mario Farnbacher, who's a rock star in one of these Acura cars. He's an HPD factory driver, and when he's on board, look out, he's going to make magic happen. But he's really being a great mentor for Ashton. They're literally glued at the hip throughout the course of the weekend. You always see them together at dinner, at breakfast, and side by side in the pit lane, in the paddock, and the transporter, just working hard to really hone her skills. And she's got a lot of confidence. She's a very confident young lady, and she's doing it right. She's really putting in the time and has the resources to get the job done.
4 podiums through 8 races, including the win in the second round of the weekend at NOLA earlier this year. And this incident here brings them back into the championship conversation. The George Kurtz-Colin Brown pairing had built a lead. It was 21 points over second place Luck and Halen. It was 46 points over Harrison and Farnbacher. And now those two find themselves in a very good position. If they can maximize this day, that puts them right back in the conversation with 2 regular distance races to go after this weekend, plus the 8-hour to close things out at Indianapolis.
Yeah, and also the Bimmerwald team there. Chandler Hull is leading Pro-Am right now. They're only a further 5 points back, so lots to play for.
This is Charlie Luck, driving for Wright Motorsports, famed Porsche team based in Ohio. Charlie driving with his son-in-law, Jan Halen. And for Jan, this is a return to this championship. He and Fred Pordad won the Pro-Am title last year on the back of a very consistent season, a couple of wins, but mostly it was just about being there in contention at the end, one week after the other, and they've replicated that pretty well this year with Jan and Charlie. And Charlie at the moment has that car second in the Pro-Am class. We've been talking about Aaron Vogel and the real-time team working to get this car squared away. Shay, what are you hearing?
Well, down here with Michael Cooper, I figured come to the source for the best opportunity of information. Michael, for the hometown team for real-time racing, this isn't how you wanted the race to start, but it had a very productive test here a few weeks ago. How important is it now to keep running to learn more for tomorrow's race for the possibility of a win?
Yeah, you know, it was an unfortunate incident that Aaron had there. Just, you know, someone spun way up in the pack and then got collected by a couple other cars, and the cars got some significant damage on it, but the guys did the best they could to get it back together. So I don't think that will be 100% again today. So I don't know if it'll be representative to make the car better for tomorrow, but we'll just keep soldiering on and try and get a good result out of this.
Well, the good news is for fans everywhere, the damage is not to the hood of the car. You guys did something very special as a team. Tell us a little about it.
Yeah, the team let all the fans that come out to the parade on Thursday night in Elkhart Lake sign the hood, and I think they're going to retire the hood after this weekend and hang it up in the shop. So it's really cool to be carrying all those names, and hopefully we'll do everyone proud this weekend.
Yeah, I have no doubt. Good luck in tomorrow's race, and good luck continuing today.
All right, thanks, Shay.
Great to hear from Michael. Tough circumstances, of course, but that is something that the real-time team does do traditionally here.
Yeah.
And there's a reason, not just because they're based nearby in Milwaukee, but they are a favorite of the fans here at Road America for all that they've given back to the fans at this racetrack.
Your two boys got the Sharpie out, didn't they?
They did. Rupert and Mo on the front of that car. Glad that it got through unscathed. I think they got a real kick out of that, as did so many.
Oh, it was a brilliant evening, just the perfect setting. Basically take all the cars on the public roads, driving through town. And park right outside Seepkins, which is a very special place. If you ever have the opportunity, if you haven't been to Elkhart Lake and Road America, put it on your bucket list. It doesn't come any better, just a special vibe here. It's old school, the racetrack is phenomenal. The facility, though, I mean, even the racetrack is unchanged. They're going to resurface at the end of this year. But the facility, just every time you come here, there's always a pleasant surprise. They continue to invest and make this a wonderful treat for all the fans.
And if you can, tack on the extra day, come out on the Thursday for that parade. It's modeled after what has been done for a number of years now at the TotalEnergies 24 Hours of Spa, where they drive the race cars from the Spa circuit into the town of Spa itself. And it's a huge deal. Lots of fans out there mingling with the drivers and the cars that are about to contest the 24-hour race. Very similar here, and you're never going to get closer to more of your favorite cars and drivers than you will at that parade. It's a fan favorite for a reason. So if you can add the extra day next year and come out and join us, we certainly would love it. I think you'd enjoy it as well. Now, hopefully we're getting to the end of the cleanup. It has chewed away the vast majority of this stint for the starting drivers.
Russell Ward here really working hard on sort of burst of acceleration, big braking, trying to generate some brake temperature up through those uprights into the wheel itself and into the tire as well. And then you're going to see a lot of scrubbing, I feel, before we go back to green here in terms of getting that pickup off. As you start to work the tires, it's almost like if you watch your child with a drawing book and you see them use the eraser at the end of it, those little shavings, that's what a tire does over a rough surface like we have here at Road America. And those get left on the racetrack, and when you're running around at low speed, it's very easy to pick those up with the hot tires and give you a lack of grip when you go back to green flag racing.
And now is the time to do it, because the lights are off on the safety car. Word from race control is we are due to go green the next time around, and it will be Russell Ward set to lead the way. And his closest challenger in terms of qualifying is out of this race. Does K-Pax have anything that we haven't seen from them this weekend? If not, the Windward Racing team looks to be in a very strong position. It's quite something to say with still 69 minutes to go. But based on what we've seen through practice and qualifying, the two strongest cars were Windward and US Racetronics, and then it was a pretty big gulf to the next closest.
Yeah, I think that if there's ever a team that doesn't count their chickens early, it's Windward Racing. I mean, they've had heartbreak this summer in terms of coming so close to wins in a couple of championships, but did break through a class win at Watkins Glen. They won the overall win. They got away from the very end. But nonetheless, it's a team that's firing on all cylinders in terms of the operations, led by Ed Hall, new team manager there this year. Just a wonderful operation. Bryce Ward, Russell's dad, is a keen racer himself, and very much behind this whole organization. They've invested heavily with the HTP organization over in Europe, and they're doing it right. They're really building a wonderful, wonderful team.
I love the story, too, about how Bryce Ward got the racing bug growing up in South Africa within earshot of Kyalami. And just the sounds that drifted his way were enough to enrapture him and captivated his thoughts and his dreams.
Yeah, and I think what's been so impressive is about their attitude with the heartbreak and the disappointment for various reasons, that they just stay the course. They just look forward to the next opportunity and say it's going to come our way. Just keep doing what we're doing. And certainly turned around. They won a big race here just a couple of weeks ago on the same turf, admittedly with a different tire. So, and they really feel that the two tires work similarly. So they should be in pretty good shape here in terms of a setup for this race today.
Now it will be the car that leads the field to the green flag with just over 1 hour remaining. Keep in mind, there is that impending threat of weather, rain in the area, and it's due to arrive sometime before this race concludes. We'll keep an eye on that, but now we watch as the field accelerates through the VP acceleration zone. Russell Ward out in front, leading Michele Beretta and Misha Goikhberg. Pro Class cars 1, 2, 3 before the Pro-Am leader, Chandler Hull.
Yeah, Russell Ward is ready to go, right? That was a really nice restart from him. And Chandler Hull now trying to put the pressure on Misha Goldberg. Here comes Charlie Luck down to the inside on Ashton Harrison.
And that was for second in Pro-Am. That was Luck holding off Harrison, trying to make her go the long way around. And ultimately, she could not make that move. So Charlie Luck holds on to second here for the moment. He's got a big gap, including one car out of class, separating him from the class leader Hull.
Yeah, saw him drop a wheel there a little bit coming off of turn 3. The Porsche took a little hop there. Here comes Ashton Harrison trying to pick up that draft in the slipstream. So they come down the moraine sweep, looks to the inside, deep on the brakes. This is going to be tight.
Yes, it is. Charlie Luck didn't give her much room. He gave her one NSX width, and that's it. And she has to back out. But now a late lunge up into turn 6.
Boy, she putting the pressure on big time on Charlie Luck, but he's resisting that challenge right now. Good driving between the two of them.
This is a case where the tires are absolutely not up to optimal temperature after all that running behind the safety car. Plus, think about all the debris they were running through. You've got to keep that in the back of your mind as well. Closing in on the pit window in the next 15, 16 minutes. That's when the pits will open up for service. But with the impending rain, we might see that stretched to its breaking point as deep into that pit window as possible.
Scott Smithson there, just behind him. Harrison is having a nice run. The car has shown pace here this weekend, did some testing. Feel that they're on the right track as well.
Harrison pulls to the inside. It'll be side by side into Canada corner. Bodywork flies off the two cars as they might have touched ever so slightly, but Harrison, you can book it up one more spot. She's up into second.
That was really nice. Looked like a little dive plane or something was flicked off there in that maneuver, or maybe so. Oh, Goikhberg putting the pressure on Beretta here between the two teammates. That's turn 14. It's going to give Hull a big run as they exit the corner.
Oh yeah, Chandler Hull loves this. To the inside now, back to the outside. He'll go side by side with the K-Pax Lamborghini. Goikhberg in that green machine was held up by his teammate. That's giving Chandler Hull a run, but in the slipstream, here comes Goikhberg now, peeking a nose to the inside.
Yeah, certainly the one car looks a little bit vulnerable, doesn't it, in terms of straight line speed. I know they've been fighting that a bit this summer. Hull continues to lead the Pro-Am class, fourth on the road right now between the top 3 pro cars. Goikhberg has looked really impressive here. I think he had a faster qualifying run this morning. Team said pit. And I think he looked down at the predictive and he was very close to besting his previous best. And I think he may have left a tenth or two on the table there. Could have moved up a spot. Now he's deep on the brakes inside his teammate. Beretta gives him some room. He washes out wide. Hull is right there once again. I think Goikhberg's potentially got more pace than Beretta. He's trying to determine, how do I fight this one with a teammate? Such a tricky dynamic.
Impressive stuff from the veteran Canadian. We've talked about it throughout the season. On his day, as Jeff Burton has gone around, looks like a little contact with the wall too.
That's turn 5, isn't it? Exit turn 5.
Now, did he catch it square? No, he did not. That right rear wobbling tells you everything you need to know. That car is done.
Yeah, not the debut they were looking for with a fresh team here this weekend.
That is another heavy impact for Jeff Burton. He's had several in the last few weekends, and double yellow flags fly once again over Road America, breaking off what was a pretty good scrap in the midfield, certainly in the Pro-Am ranks. Actually, for second and third in Pro 2. How about Misha Goikberg? To finish my thought, I was about to say, we've said it a few times this year. On his day, he is very fast. We've seen him do that in prototypes. He's transitioning into GT racing more in recent years, having perhaps his best showing of the season for K-Pax Racing.
Yeah, looking at the weather forecast, there's potential rain here in about 30 minutes, so that's going to be beyond the pit window. So we may be seeing teams having to come, get their driver change done, and then maybe coming in for a change of tires, as it looks like Jeff is trying to find a safe haven here, get the car out of harm's way. That's a shame. They had high hopes here, running with TR3, who always puts out a great and very competitive Lamborghini.
Yeah, no question. Tough to see that, but great job to find the cutout. That should make this a faster full course yellow. That was something that was stressed in the drivers' meeting. There are a lot of places around this track where you can safely pull that car out of harm's way. Looked at Andrea Caldarelli getting ready for his stint. Keeping an eye on the skies, though.
Yeah, it's going to be a tricky one. This engineer Sebastian alongside, they'll be working together here. Andrea has so much experience. It's always a huge asset to have someone of his abilities behind the wheel, but also his experience level. Also runs a team over in Europe as well, so he's used to that management position as well.
Yeah, that's the Orange One FFF racing team that has been so good for Lamborghini over the past several years, scaling back somewhat in recent years. Might actually have some level of involvement here with K-Pax this year, if I'm remembering that correctly. But started off racing in Asia, transitioned to Fanatec GT World Challenge Europe, powered by AWS, and instantly were the front-running Lamborghini squad up against some teams that had been doing it for a while, and it was very eye-opening. Andrea, of course, a big part of that with his managerial ability, but also what he's done behind the wheel.
I think we're going to see a really good fight here this afternoon, because I think if Russell Ward can maintain the track position that he's had, Philip Ellis has certainly got the speed when he jumps on board to bring it home. But I think behind them it's going to be a fascinating battle when you put Bill Orbler behind the wheel, running for Bill World M4, and then you're going to have Jordan Pepper and Andrea Caldarelli aboard the 2 K-Pax Lamborghinis. That'll be a fierce fight, I think, for those podium spots.
Oh, I agree, but then you got to throw in Mario Farnbacher in the Racer's Edge car, and Jan Halen in the right car, and on down Brian Sellers for DXDT. It just keeps on coming, doesn't it?
Mueller.
Yeah.
He loves this place.
Exactly.
He's had a couple of wins over the years and a few pole positions. And that's another team that didn't have a ton of track time yesterday. I think we work up in qualifying, so essentially had no dry running here this weekend. We did test recently, but going into qualifying relatively cold, he feels they've got a lot more potential than their track position showcases.
Race Vision powered by AWS. Top speeds recorded. Misha Goikberg, 162.7 miles per hour. And you're approaching that in about 3 spots around this track.
Yeah, up into turn 1, turn 5, and then down in the corner, the one that they're in right now, turn 12.
Evidently, there is an incident under review, 91 and 08. So 91 is Jeff Burton, 08 is Scott Smithson. Evidently, that might have had something to do with the issues for Jeff Burton. We'll see what race control thinks about that. But in the meantime, the safety car has pulled away, and once again, it will be Russell Ward leading the field to a restart, charging on up the hill, with Beretta, Goikberg, Hull, and Scardina right there in tow.
Oh, another good timing here. He's going to get a run on the Lamborghinis. Does Misha defend? He slots it over to the right-hand side of the road. He's certainly allowed to do that. I think the key is going to be Beretta. How is that black #1 Lamborghini Huracan handling? Can he fend off his teammate here?
Beretta has to go a bit defensive. Goikberg held up somewhat behind him, and that brings Chandler Holt even closer. This is where the BMW ought to be strong, although then again, Race Vision powered by AWS told us that the Lamborghini is stout in a straight line too.
Yeah, and talking to the team this morning, they really feel their vulnerabilities into the brake zones with that #1 machine. So I think Beretta's got a bit of a handful here as his teammate looks down to the inside. Goodberg laid on the brakes. Beretta wisely just swings out a little bit wider, gives him a little bit of breathing room if he overcommits.
Harrison has passed Scardina. That is not for class position, but it does bring second in Pro-Am right to the rear wing of the leader in class, Chandler Hull.
Yeah, and she won't be satisfied with that. What I love about her is her grit and determination. She always wants more. She wants to win.
More on the Jeff Burton story now with Shay.
TR3 is done for the day, guys. Unfortunately, the Lamborghini pulling off track at turn 8, but Jeff Burton reporting that he was hit. So perhaps that's the investigation that's going on in race control right now.
I think you're spot on, Shay. Good observation. Thank you.
I think they were running 4th and 5th at one point, so they were certainly close together on the racetrack prior to that restart.
I see something flapping from the left front on Ashton Harrison. Remember, we did see a little bit of bodywork fly off of either that car. Ooh, that was Vogel, very aggressive on Smithson, I think. Yeah, she's, or is that Askew? Yes, she's around Askew now.
She's up on the wheel with
Yes.
not 100%.
Frank Gannett off wide a little bit too. But yeah, how about it? This car might not be 100%, according to Michael Cooper, but don't tell Aaron Vogel that. Look at this, charging all the way up 2 spots on this lap.
I love that onboard lap that she talked us through here. It was pretty exciting. I mean, you are really wringing the neck of one of these GT3 cars around here, using every ounce of downforce, particularly into these brake zones.
So for Vogel, now up to 5th once again in Pro-Am. Good recovery from the hometown team.
Yeah, she qualified there, and now she's caught up here with Smithson right in front of her. Car must be working well. She's moving forward.
It looks that way.
The prettiest paint scheme we've seen from real time. All that tape on board, trying to hold it together here.
Even working through the traffic on that last lap, she was faster than the 3 cars that currently run in front of her. So we'll keep an eye on Aaron Vogel as her rally continues. Here is Ward leading Beretta, leading Goikberg, who has Chandler Hull in tow. And Hull actually has built somewhat of a gap now over Harrison. Looked like Harrison was starting to close in when we broke away the last time.
Well, a big concern coming in here was the tire management. We said this racetrack is very aggressive, very abrasive, and there's about a 4 to 5 second drop off in terms of lap times here, which is quite considerable when we've seen lap times actually get faster at some of the racetracks this year with the Pirelli tires. So that's all about the race surface itself, but some of that's been diminished by the amount of full course yellow action we've seen here this afternoon.
Through the carousel, chasing Scott Smithson, who currently is under investigation along with Jeff Burton. Not exactly sure who's being investigated for what exactly, just that there was contact between the two. And we know that Burton ended up off track and out of the race.
This car looks pretty tidy. It doesn't look like it's a handful right now, so maybe some of the issues they're concerned about are more technical than really handling wise.
Just 55 minutes to go in a race that has been run at a staccato pace, stop and start, with several yellow flags in this opening stint, but now starting to settle into a rhythm. Russell Ward just set the CrowdStrike fastest lap of the race, 2:08.163, a full 4/10 of a second clear of Beretta in second.
Yeah, and that's good news for his teammate. Just as a little bit of a buffer for the team to work with, work around the strategy. We are expecting rain here shortly after the pit window closes, but obviously anything can happen here as the weather blows in and out really, really quickly. Could be earlier, may not even happen. We'll have to wait and see.
And think about this too, this track being 4 miles in length, it takes over 2 minutes to get around. If that rain comes and it comes hard and you just started a lap, that is a long way to have to nurse a car back around on slicks.
Well, the weather app is saying in 17 minutes, which is about 3 minutes outside your latest opportunity to stop. So that's how close it's going to be.
Oof.
Just hear the little ch-ch into the brake zone there. Run these cars as low as you can. That's how it develops maximum downforce without being too abrupt that actually jumps the car across the racetrack.
Beretta settling in, looked vulnerable on both of those restarts.
Did.
But now, a bit more in the rhythm. He's built enough of a margin where he's not getting any pressure from behind, but he's watching that Mercedes disappear out the windscreen.
Racetrack looks really dirty there when they go through that little kink through kettle bottoms down towards the brake zone for Canada. He's just been on form here this weekend. Really loves this racetrack and it's showing itself.
Note on Chandler Hull, who runs there in 4th. One thing that the team was telling us about was what they were doing with tire strategy. Who starts on what set of tires? There's a set of stickers that you get for the race, and then the other set you have to use is the set used in qualifying, and they've taken a unique approach.
Yeah, they tried to put Chandler out on the used tires to give Bill Aublin a fresher set to work with when the pros are all out there. I think they feel that Chandler in amongst the AMs is one of the strongest out there, and Bill's obviously got his hands full with the talent that we see at the pro level, so just working every strategy play here to try and give them the best result.
That speaks volumes about the team's confidence in Chandler. Typically, you do not see teams do that because the AM, by definition, less experienced than the pro in the lineup, and therefore you typically want them to be as comfortable as possible. So if you have a driver like Chandler Hull who can wring the neck of the car and manage a car that maybe is not at its optimum and still get good lap time relative to the other AMs, that's a huge asset.
It is, and it comes down to the character of the personality in terms of being able to give that up. I mean, I'm sure Chandler would love to be out there on fresh sticker tires and going a little bit quicker, showcasing his abilities, but he knows that their best result will come from using the strategy that they're currently employing.
Got fans watching at home or trackside tweeting me with weather predictions. Everyone's checking their app of choice. It probably does vary depending on which one you're looking at, but a few people noting they're expecting it after the pit window. But just how soon after, as Jordan Pepper and his longtime co-driver, they were co-champions a year ago, Andrea Caldarelli. I know neither of them were thrilled that they had to split that pairing up, as much fun as they had with one another last year, but we are the beneficiaries of that because now we get to watch them duel.
Yeah, and we haven't seen it a lot this year, but I think this is certainly setting up nicely, potentially, to see that showcase this afternoon. So they're having a laugh, and they're great mates. There's great chemistry amongst that whole group. They're disappointed that they couldn't continue their winning trend. So we see Russell Ward there bucking and bumping there over that entry to turn 14. It's a tricky turning point there, right as the bump is. You have to try and get it turned in, and I think this pit window will be opening next time by for the leaders.
And typically what we do see in terms of strategy for race 1 in those Pro-Am lineups is an early call to the pit lane to get the pros in the car as soon as possible as we go on board here with Russell Ward. And that's likely what we'll see. Shea reporting to us that all the drivers are effectively suited and booted, got the helmets on, ready to go. But does someone roll the dice and hope to catch the rain and therefore not have to make an additional pit stop to go on the rain tires?
Yeah, and essentially what you have to have done, you have to have the car on pit lane by the time that clock that you're looking at the top of the screen hits 40 minutes. So you don't have to have completed the service, but you do have to break the plane of the pit entry line before that clock runs down to 40. Minimum stop time here this weekend is 86 from pit in to pit out, including the 4 tire change, driver change, and top up on fuel.
Should note that it is Beretta with the fastest lap of the race so far, a 2:08.091. That is just 0.02 of a second faster than Ward's best lap. The two are running similar speeds as of late, although on that last lap, Ward had the edge by 0.7.
So Beretta's car looked like a handful in qualifying, looked like a handful in the opening laps. It seems to have settled down. He seems to have found a nice rhythm here. Gapped his teammate a little bit as he's still feeling the attention of Chandler Hull. A little bit wide there going through the kink, but certainly safe. I think they've actually put a little bit more concrete out there just outside the painted curbing there to give the drivers a bit more room to work with. Love that extra cushion in that corner.
That extra curbing there, that was put in when NASCAR first came to Road America. And it is rough. It has to be to get the attention of the stock car boys. but it's become part of the racetrack now. Here's the call to the pit lane. The window is open, and Russell Ward comes in from the overall lead. Beretta will follow him in, as will Goikhberg, as will Hull. Will anyone stay out?
Looks like there's a trend. Everyone's thinking, let's get the pro in, get it sorted out. Obviously, everyone's feeling on pit lane at least that window of rain is not threatening within the next 10 minutes. Otherwise, they'd certainly roll the dice and stay out. Ashton Harrison in, Scardina, Luck.
Everyone.
Sheep.
Class car, Kyle Washington will stay out and thereby inherit the overall lead, at least for one lap. Now it's time for these crews to go to work. There's a minimum time needed to spend on the pit lane. That includes transit as well as the stop. For Fanatec GT, that is 86 seconds. That's enough time to do a full service stop without being too rushed, but you still have to be on your game, and one little slip up can be very costly.
Yeah, I'd say typically the good teams, you'll see them stationary for 5 to 10 seconds.
And that's a good sign if you're stationary. That means you've got the work done in plenty of time. Now you're just trying to time the exit, and the Windward crew clapping their hands. They know that was a good stop. How about K-Pax? Looks like it was.
You just heard the one car release just in front of the three as well. You could hear it from the audio from the camera. Bill Aublin now behind the wheel of the BIM World entry. I don't think there was any big swap over there. Gain, I don't think.
All of these have been right there or thereabouts. We see the Joker employed by Racer's Edge and the changeover from Ashton to Mario Farnbacher. And the Joker simply is one time a weekend. You're allowed to do one stop under the minimum time by a second or less, and that's what they've done. 3 teams have actually now done it, so Wright Motorsports as well as the DXDT entry 63 car. One stop of note that was slow was Smithson to Sellers, and they were in the middle of a battle with Vogel and Cooper, the real-time car. That is likely to cost them that spot.
4 seconds outside what everyone else was doing, so that's a significant disadvantage.
And now Michael Cooper is on board, and it should be an Onofrio Triarci in that Ferrari ahead of him, the leaders in the AM class, and Michael will want to make this move as fast as he can so he can then begin his pursuit of Jan Heylen for class position.
Great job by his teammate Aaron Vogel. Just to have the confidence to get back out there, get up on the wheel with the car that's obviously a bit wounded. Kyle Washington bring in the GMG entry into pit lane, turn it over to his team boss and partner, James Safronis.
And that will be the final car yet to make a stop. So everyone electing to come in early. And the more I think about it, a big part of this could be the tire drop-off that everyone's been talking about here this weekend. If you're staying out, you're doing it on compromised tires. The pace is going to drop off, and you really suffer relative to the others, potentially.
Yeah, if it rains, and you're
Correct.
going to come in again. If you were then extending this second run, then it works the other way, right? So there wasn't a lot of work put into that first half of the race with the amount of yellow we had, but I think everyone's believing we are going to see some rain. So let's get out and use the sweetness in these fresh Pirellis as soon as we can.
Now that's what we've seen. The only major change then is real time ahead of DXDT. So Cooper now ahead of Sellers in the battle that was begun by Vogel and Smithson.
Curious to see what sort of lap times Michael Cooper can cut and see if they've made any headway with the setup on this race car. And obviously, is that then compromised with the damage from the contact down in turn 3 on the opening lap?
Everyone has made their stops at this point. Kyle Washington in the pit lane now. Let's hear from the leaders in Pro-Am. Chandler Hull just jumped out of that BMW M4 GT3, Shay.
Chandler, it's been a great day so far for BIM World and for you and Bill leading from the start, pole position, starting on the second row. Was it as much fun behind the wheel of the BMW, though, as it was watching you?
It was probably the most fun I've had in this car all year. It was fantastic. The guys have put in so much work during our testing programs and stuff, and it was just on rails. Just kept getting better and better all weekend, and just being out there and trying to capitalize on what we did in qualifying. So
Well, you definitely did that, and now the big question mark is rain. Is it going to happen before the end of the race? I know Bill is great in the rain. Are you hoping it stays dry?
Either way, I mean, Bill's the master. He's been doing this longer than I've been alive. So if we need one guy, he's definitely the one guy, and I've got full faith in him. I'm hoping it stays dry, and we can just try to keep building this lead. But rain will shake things up, and I know Bill's a master. So
Podium every single race weekend. Good luck keeping the streak alive today.
thank you very much. Fingers crossed.
5 podiums in total, but none on the top step to this point. Thank you, Shay. Calvin, you're looking at the weather. What does it tell you?
Well, it says it's close. There's a monster sort of like front that's coming through here, but it's a little bit south of here. So even though it's predicted that rain may start hitting this area in about 2 minutes, the big band is running south of here. So it's going to be really critical how much rain you get, and then when do you make the call? I mean, it can be a big delta. Sometimes you can see a 20 to 25 second delta between running on the correct tire versus the wrong tire around this big 4-mile circuit. So the timing, if you do make a stop, will be crucial in terms of the results today.
Look at the very front. Philip Ellis now a lead of 3.7 seconds over Andrea Caldarelli. Looking at their last laps, and Ellis had the edge by 4/10 in that duel. Meanwhile, Caldarelli is going to see in his rearview camera Jordan Pepper getting closer. Jordan just set the CrowdStrike fastest lap of the race at a 2:05.8 compared to a 2:06.3 for Caldarelli. So the South African ace is charging.
This is what we've been looking forward to. These two aces going up against it.
And keeping pace with the 2 Lamborghinis is Bill Oberlin, the master, as Chandler Hull so aptly put it. Leads in Pro-Am. Mario Farnbacher is about 4 seconds behind. This battle has resumed, so the pit work put real time ahead of DXDT, but now Brian Sellers has caught Michael Cooper.
Yeah, and they tested here and they feel they're on the right track. Sellers actually was the fastest driver in free practice 1 here this weekend. So we got a pretty good race car underneath Brian here, but Michael Cooper will not give up this position easily, excuse me.
Totally agreed. And he might be one that would love to see some rain. Although, maybe with a wounded car, that doesn't sound so appealing. But I was going to say that typically this NSX has performed incredibly well in the wet, even in some of its earlier versions.
Oh, very much so. It was, even when they were trying to develop this car and get up to speed, if it rained, it was suddenly a monster and had great pace. And I think that continues through the various Evos.
But with a wounded race car, that's not a variable you want added into the equation.
I'll be interested to hear this evening in terms of exactly what that damage is. I think it was like intercooler related versus maybe suspension, so maybe the car's handling is actually okay for Michael. Certainly looks pretty settled. Don't see it being a disaster and too much of a handful for him.
Brian Sellers, though, is right there. Mercedes is looming, and he has erased a fairly sizable deficit over the past few laps to make this a battle.
Right now you're getting into that zone where, yeah, you're picking up the draft down the straightaways, but you're getting in that aero wash coming through some of these corners. Certainly Cooper a little bit wide there. Sellers gets down to the inside, carves the corner nicely, so takes advantage of a little bit of a wide moment there, actually exceeding the track limits, which is certainly being observed there on the exit of turn 1, because you gain some time, but certainly in comparison to Brian Sellers, he did not gain time, and Sellers gains that position.
A savvy maneuver for Brian Sellers to watch that play out in front of him, time the move, get to the inside. Now he has to play defense into the braking zone for 5. And has that position well in hand over the potentially ailing real-time machine.
Stefan Pfeiffer there briefly on the radio and looking at all the data with his team there for DXDT. Such a nice guy, great leader for that group.
So much experience too. He's been a part of this paddock for a long time, engineered lots of different types of cars. What a good hire for DXDT to bring that level of experience to the table.
Yeah, a ton of experience and just a good energy I feel that he brings to the table as well.
Seeing a report that the Wright Motorsports team on their radio, they told Jan Halen expect rain in the next 7 to 9 minutes. Just looking outside our position, see the leaves rustling on the trees a little bit more than they were before.
Yorblin here leading Pro-Am. I think what Bill needs to do is to really just think about the big picture of the class victory. No need to burn these tires down. If the rain should escape us, you want to make sure you got something to fight with should there be a full course yellow. So be smart, think big picture. And the timing, if there is rain, you know, where are the leaders? Will they be the first to pick? Can someone dive in and do the massive undercut in terms of being on the right tire at the right time? Caldarelli out wide. Pepper just staying on board the limits there.
Tell me what you think of the two K-Pax cars, the body language of the number one, the Andrea Caldarelli car. It just has not looked quite as stable as the green number 3.
No, and they've been fighting that all year. It just seems to have a little bit of inefficiency there in general. Some of it was straight line related, certainly under the brakes. Spoke to Thomas Blum, the strategist, after qualifying this morning. He said the drivers just having to be really sensitive into these brake zones to keep the car underneath them. He said, ironically, we'd like it to rain. We feel this race car is good in the rain, so if it rains, bring it on.
Comparing these two, should be identical cars, right? And the times, the last few laps, they've been very close. That time, slight edge to Caldarelli over Pepper by just over a 10th the last time by. This is neat. We can look at some telemetry between the two in real time.
This is awesome. These guys were champions together last year, started off the year sweeping Sonoma as Pepper runs a little bit wide. They're exiting the carousel, putting it all on the line. Look how much road he uses there on entry. Just trying to maximize that radius. Turn into apex. The ABCs of a corner, just perfect.
Caldarelli, Temporera looked like he was going to go defensive, then faded back out to the left-hand side for Canada corner. Smoothly through, but feeling the pressure from his erstwhile co-driver, Jordan Pepper, the South African K-Pax Racing ace.
Yeah, you know Pepper wants to make a statement here and show who's the top dog in that camp. Caldarelli moving around a little bit, just trying to break that draft effect that you get coming up these long straightaways. About 165 miles of approach speed, particularly in the draft as you get to the brake pedal here for turn 1. Down a couple of gears and whistle through. You really want to hit the apex there. Tell you what, Caldarelli's going to get a call on this if he keeps exceeding those track limits. They were warned of this in the drivers' meeting here earlier this weekend.
This is turn 3, race vision powered by AWS, and Jordan Pepper among the fastest through that corner, 74.5 miles per hour. Now the long run down to turn 5. Pepper dodging inside, outside, trying to find a way past his teammate.
I wonder if he's calling in those track limit violations on his teammate. And
Car 1,
champion.
second warning track limits. That's from race control. So they have taken note.
Does that a third time, he may be coming down pit lane. They said, we're going to call it. Be prepared.
And turn 1 is the place to watch because the stewards have determined, and it seemed like there was consensus on this from the drivers as well, that that's the one place where if you do let the car drift a little bit wide, there is time to be gained. Other places like Canada Corner, for instance, yes, you can go out there and use that track, but the amount of space you give up relative to the speed that you're able to carry, it kind of all balances out at the end.
Boy, Pepper is pushing the limits there in terms of where the track is giving you grip. Yeah, and just to confirm, you see the white line edging the circuit everywhere. As you come off some of these corners like this one, turn 12, there's then those perpendicular white hash marks as well. As long as one of your tires is touching that at some point, you're okay. If you've got all 4 outside of that, that is exceeding the track limits, and it will be called in turn 1, as we've seen with the warning for the number 1 car we're looking at here, Andrea Caldarelli. These guys are right on the limit, Ryan. This is superb to watch. Perfect execution here in terms of wringing every ounce of speed out of these Lamborghinis.
And wow, they duel. Philip Ellis is drawing away. 5.3 seconds now to lead over these two. Pepper, Caldarelli, nip and tuck, headed to turn 1. And Caldarelli keep it inside limits. He can this time. Pepper goes wide.
He's saying his teammates taking advantage of it. Now what he's going to do, he'll know that his teammates probably been warned. I would think they would have given him that information to know that Andrea's got to be a little bit slower through turn 1. Pepper's trying to use his 2 mulligans maybe.
Meanwhile, another nice clean run for the Triarsi Competizione team. This duo, Charlie Scardina and Onofrio Triarsi, have only become stronger as the year has progressed. And Onofrio is coming off of a very good weekend in GT America competition. 2 weeks ago, he raced on the streets of Nashville, came away with a win and a second place on a very tough circuit, it should be added.
See David Empringham on the box there, working with his team in a coaching capacity. Excellent racer himself. Elevation change here is immense. You come out and tip it out of turn 6 side by side here. This is Cooper and Dirk Mueller. Mueller to the inside, takes another spot away from the real-time Acura. Spoke to Dirk this morning, he said we're really on the back foot. Had an incident yesterday, so lost a lot of track time, thought we had it fixed, went back out, a vibration on the car, so he went into qualifying relatively cold this morning as well, as did a few of the drivers, in fact. He just loves this circuit. It's been on the pole a number of times. Some big victories, he and Joey Hand with BMW and Ford GT program.
Definitely a great addition to the series this year. When that lineup was announced, he'd be joining David Askew. Caught a lot of people's attention to get a driver of Dirk's caliber to join the rest of this elite list of pros. Philip Ellis, maybe less heralded than some of the others we've been talking about, at least on this side of the pond. But if you look at what he's done over the past few years in DTM and GT Masters, and then racing in several series here stateside, this might be one of the better pilots in a Mercedes active today.
Yeah, he's top shelf talent. Put it all on the line. He made a big move on Bill Auckland to grab a victory here a couple of weeks ago, down into turn 5, the corner he's approaching right now. So he'd love to cut and paste the performance of that weekend.
It's right on board with the race leader into turn 5.
Watch how smooth his inputs are. Beautiful.
This here is Triarci running 7th overall with the 4th place car in Pro-Am. Brian Sellers in tow and closing in over the last few laps. So it's shaping up to be a good day for Sellers and Smithson. This would match their season best finish of 4th in class. Did that in race 2 at NOLA earlier this year. Another driver it's great to have back in the championship. I remember Brian driving McLarens for K-Pax, and I'm sure there are other examples I'm skipping, but it's been a few years away for him, at least in a driving capacity, but he's been around as a driver coach for several drivers in this series.
Yeah, I mean, he's just such a quality guy, so much speed behind the wheel. Never makes a mistake, and just a great mentor for a driver like Scott Smithson, who's learning the ropes and learning his craft, so perfect teammate.
Right now, looking to grab another spot away from Onofrio Triarci, who gives him just enough room. Brian backs out of it, flashes those headlights. I think he would have liked a clear path through.
Take any big risk here, because with the strategy, if this weather does come in, and it's certainly threatening right now as we speak, it's in the area, because you could really be in great shape if it suddenly hits on one part of the circuit and you're able to dive in before the leaders. You could suddenly gain a huge advantage potentially and turn your day on its head in terms of the result. He's running 4th in Pro-Am right now. Podium potential is there still.
It's summer in the Midwest, though, so you never know where it's going to pop up, when it's going to pop up, if it's going to pop up. Never mind the fact that the forecast was unequivocal this morning. It is going to rain. Well, that just keeps getting pushed back and pushed back and pushed back. And for now, it stays dry with still 30 minutes to go. Scott Smithson looking on as his co-driver Brian Sellers continues to work on Onofrio Triarci, trying to take over the 7th overall position.
Ferrari looks pretty stout down the straightaways. Looks like it's gapping Brian a little bit there. Some of that could be down to the downforce levels that the teams have elected to run here, particularly with the rain a threat. So there could be some compromise there in terms of downforce versus straightaway speed for some of these cars running right now. I mean, if you're on the back foot, I mean, I'd take a risk. I'd be setting this car up for the wet conditions and hope that the rain comes in before the checkered flag here, and then you can certainly have a big advantage.
Going back to Brian Sellers and what's on his resume. Won Jeremy Shaw's Team USA scholarship back in 2001. Won the F2000 championship back in 2002. Had a decent single-seater career before transitioning to sports cars. And that's where he's shown. Swapping position here, though. Pepper up to P2 around Caldarelli. How did this happen?
Well, he was certainly working hard on it. And here we see run down to turn 5. Caldarelli. Oh, that was close.
Wow.
My goodness, they nearly collected each other.
That will have Darren Law, Jim Huey, Thomas Blum and company. That'll have their hearts in their collective throat. That was very nearly K-Pac's disaster into turn 5, and only the quick hands of Jordan Pepper could save it.
I remember the Red Bull F1 moment with Ricardo and Verstappen that had a different outcome to that one. Great job by Pepper there. Talk about being lively on the wheel.
Well, and credit to Caldarelli, too, in fairness, for making sure there was enough room for Pepper to save it, and the two can carry on. But I don't know, 9 times out of 10, that ends in tears, right?
Ooh, that would have been a big one to explain from Jordan's perspective there, but got away with it. Just great car control.
It was a nifty move, though. Showed to the outside, then came back to the inside, laid on the brakes, somehow got it done.
I'm sure if Orblin had crested the hill there on the run down to turn 5 to watch that happen, but he was probably licking his chops thinking, I'm going to be second here on the road in a moment.
We watch this battle continue, and Onofrio Triarsi piloting that Ferrari. Charlie Scardina is standing by. That's the co-driver. He is with Shea.
Charlie was a great qualifying earlier on, but then even better start to this race. Super competitive with all the cars that are out there, and we're seeing that still going through. How cool is it, first off, though, to share a car with your brother-in-law? That's got to be the coolest thing ever.
Yeah, really fortunate, really blessed. It's awesome actually doing this experience with him, so couldn't be happier. It's fantastic.
It doesn't matter if there's one other car in class or 12. You guys are out here to race. So moving your way up through the field, that's the priority, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, we'd love to have more competitors in our class, of course, but we're looking at it from overall.
And in terms of the championship, you guys have that in the back of the mind, can unofficially clinch it by the end of this weekend. That's a neat sensation.
I actually didn't know that until you just told me that, so that would be great, but we're just going to have fun regardless.
Well, good luck in the rest of the race today.
Thanks so much. Thank you.
He's been impressive, hasn't he, all season?
Yeah, he can really get the job done. I mean, as we've cataloged before, had a pretty good career going and left the sport for a while, but on his return, hasn't lost any of his pace.
No, to your point, was second in the single-make Porsche Championship here in North America back in 2007. That led to a Porsche Junior shootout that he got to take part in over in Europe after that season. That seat ultimately went to Marco Holzer, which is impressive in its own right. And after that, decided, you know what, let's focus on business, and maybe racing will pop up as an opportunity later in life, and that's exactly what's happened. But to your point, his pace has not gone anywhere in the intervening years. He's been a revelation.
Yeah, he really has, and I love the team too. There's a lot of energy down there. They've got some great experience. This is a battle that is heating up here. Orblin is now coming under attack from Mario Farnbacher, and this is for the Pro-Am win here this afternoon. So Orblin's got to get his head down. That lead is now just, well, you can see it, 7/10 last time across the stripe. It's probably less right now.
But reports on Twitter of raindrops in turn 5. That's the area they just went through. Keep in mind, this is a massive racetrack, so it could be raining on one side, sunny in another part of it, and maybe just overcast in a third part. That is the nature of Road America. But yeah, this is a great scrap shaping up between two GT aces, Oberlin and Farnbacher.
Farnbacher can certainly get the job done in the rain. We talked about the Acura, its potential in the rain as well, but Orblin was here in tricky, sort of damp, drying conditions just a couple of weeks ago, so we'll know where to place that car on the racetrack to find the best grip should we see the rain fall. And it's so close, but it's like dark skies right now, but I'm not seeing any rain on the track just yet.
Oberlin had a pretty solid lead. You're on candid camera, smile. But that has gone away Yeah, what a great stint this has been for Mario Farnbacher, who has been turning laps as fast as just about anyone not named Philip Ellis. And he's actually been close to Philip's times in recent laps as well. And that's Chandler Hull. He knows what's at stake. 5 times they've been on the podium this year, still looking for their first win.
Yeah, we spoke to he and his dad yesterday, and they want that win. I mean, it's been a great season. I think Chandler's really done a tremendous job in stepping up to GT3 competition full-time. Been the perfect teammate for Bill Auberlen in his Pro-Am category, but right now, they don't want to see this one get away from them in terms of the pace of Mario Farnbacher. Maybe the rain will help them. Let's see. Ashton Harrison, on the other hand, she's got her hand on her head, just saying, what's going to happen here? Here comes my boy Mario, Super Mario, as we like to call him. He is a beast behind the wheel of one of these NSXs.
No doubt about it. From a great racing family. Yep.
Gets on the paint there, probably gotten the ABS activated a bit.
You talk about the Farnbachers, you got to start with his father Horst, his uncle Herman, both of whom were racing drivers, founded the Farnbacher racing team. Brother Dominic also had a successful career. It's in the blood.
Dominic's the only driver I know with the biggest smile than Danny Ricciardo. Just, he's a fun guy to have in the paddock.
No smiles now. It's all business between these two.
See Auberlen there just losing the front end a little bit halfway through the carousel, but it looked like Mario had a similar sentiment with his car as well.
We haven't talked about it a lot during the show here today, but the talking point in the paddock all weekend has been about the tires and about how abrasive the surface is, how much the tires degrade around this track. Keeping in mind this is the last time this championship will run here on this track surface. It's due for a repave in October. But this old weathered racetrack, it's put on some good races over the years, and right now it is a real challenge for the engineers to set the cars up in such a way and the drivers to drive them in such a way to make sure you still got a platform under you that you can fight with for the final 20 minutes here.
Yeah, and you're getting to a point in this race, if the rain starts to fall and there's only a few minutes left, you may just elect to keep the driver out there and trying to see if he can keep the car on the island, so to speak, because you're going to lose 40 seconds plus coming down pit lane. That's a big delta here at Road America. That'll be factored in too if it starts to get a little bit slippy out there.
So much in play, so much for the engineers and strategists to think about. As a driver, Calvin, do you want to be kept up to date on all of this stuff, or would you rather just be left alone, Kimi Räikkönen style, to focus on the task at hand?
I like to know the big picture a little bit. I mean, you don't want to just be constantly bombarded with information, but certainly keep me updated. You don't always get the big picture of the race, the leaders, the strategies that are going on, so certainly tell me what the radar's doing. What are you feeling on pit lane? But ultimately, you're the driver behind the wheel. I think if there's any call for tires, if we should start to get a little precipitation, I'm a believer in letting the driver make that call unless it's warranted in terms of one part of the racetrack is absolutely under a deluge and you have not seen it yet.
20 minutes to go. I'm not sure this will matter barring a safety car, but Jordan Pepper has been quicker than Philip Ellis over the last few laps. The lead has come down to 6.5 seconds. It's about a 0.7 of a second difference between the two the last time by. And actually, come to think of it, as we look at corner speeds through the kink, 120 miles an hour basically for Ellis. Pepper and Auberlen right there too, through a nearly flat right-hand kink with walls waiting for you on either side. That tells you what kind of commitment we're talking about.
Yeah, well, Pepper's commitment through there has been absolutely outrageous here. I mean, we were watching when he was trying to chase down his teammate there, Caldarelli, and just putting it all on the line.
Back to the previous point, I seem to recall someone telling me that they felt like the Mercedes might actually struggle with tire wear more than others. The Acura drivers telling me that, and that's not necessarily the reputation of the Mercedes. So I don't know. We might be seeing that play out in front of us here because Pepper did take another few tenths out of Ellis. Now keep in mind it's still 6.4 that he needs to overcome. But Pepper is doing what he needs to do to at least keep it a conversation worth having.
Well, he's certainly aggressive. He's going to want to try and grab that win, certainly. But I think Ellis has certainly got enough experience, enough talent, and enough mind space just to put this all in perspective and try and manage this gap. Don't take any risk. If he's just trimming a couple of tenths out, that one lap where he took nearly 3/4 of a second, that would have been an alarm bell to make sure you don't drop off the pace too much. But this battle is not going away for the Pro-Am win here this afternoon. Oberlin clawing, digging deep, trying to wrestle that BMW around this circuit.
This is why the Bimmer World team has elected to do this tire strategy that we described earlier. Give the set of stickers to Bill and see what he can do with them. I think he's going to need every bit of that extra grip from the Pirelli P0s to keep Mario Farnbacher at bay, because it does appear that the NSX is getting stronger and stronger relative to that BMW.
Yeah, and I just wonder if Mario, now he's caught Bill Oberlin, he's just struggling in his aero wash here. You can see him through the carousel there, trying to struggle to keep that front end tight to the corner. Oberlin will be watching this. Just a ton of experience, so much success, particularly with the BMW, the Rondell on the front of his winning race cars.
If ever a driver and manufacturer were synonymous with one another, it would be Bill Oberlin and BMW.
Look at him work that wheel. See his hand high on the wheel as he's coming through that difficult right-hander to come on this front straightaway. Just got to keep it clean. Can't afford to make that little error. Can't ask for too much at this stage of the game in terms of the tire life.
This has been a big step. Let's not forget that for this Bimmer World team. They are stalwarts of touring car and GT4 racing. But to make the plunge and go GT3 racing, it's not a small step, right? From GT4 to GT3, it's orders of magnitude more complex of a car. But we asked Chandler Hull about that in that conversation you alluded to earlier, and he was effusive in his praise. He said, oh yeah, we've got it. Our guys totally understand. We've got the best crew in the business.
Farnbacher's closer. Farnbacher is closer. Is he going to try and surprise Bill Oberlin there?
Can you surprise Bill Oberlin? What has he not seen in his career?
Well, he's certainly pretty conservative there through turn 5, and Mario always closer to him, so I think that certainly kept his eye on Farnbacher there. May have missed his mark slightly going through that corner as his teammate watches on. Nail-biting time here. They know how good Mario Farnbacher is.
This is big for the points, too. We should go back, in case you're just joining us. George Kurtz, the championship leader, he and Colin Brown, but George was at the wheel at the time on the opening lap, turn 3. There was a spin. Stephen Agakani spun, and it collected several cars. Kurtz was one of them, and he will not score points today. So Hull and Oberlin, they find themselves back in the mix. Harrison and Farnbacher back in the mix.
Mario, big run through there. I think he's tapping the brake pedal, make sure it's up. Maybe he's thinking about an attack here. Want to make sure the pedal was going to be there if he needed it. Sometimes when you run across the rumble strips, it can knock the pistons back in the brake calipers. You want to make sure it's there if you're going to make a big lunge. Ashton looks nervous, doesn't she?
She does.
Wonder whose heart rate is the highest, hers or Mario's right now.
Just 15 minutes to go. The Damocletian review over the incident between the 91 and the 08, so that would affect Sellers and Smithson, who are still on the track. They run 4th in Pro-Am. That has been cleared. No action taken, so they can race on. Right now running in a position to match their season best result of P4 in Pro-Am.
Look at this. Oberlin has hit his marks, but Mario's just thinking about how can I find a way through. Still 15 minutes to go. A lot of time on the board. Big exit speed there from Mario Farnbacher.
Oh,
nailed turn 3.
Yes, he did. Dropped the wheel off, but it did not slow him down any. Here he comes. This is as close as the German has been. Bill Oberlin in the BMW, guarding the inside jealously.
Watch for the flick! It's down to the inside. Oberlin was in this position a couple of times. Just 2 weeks ago, he hangs on barely.
Fantastic stuff between two veterans. Bill Oberlin clinging to that lead, tooth and nail, keeping Mario Farnbacher at bay.
Yeah, I was waiting for a similar move that Pepper did on Caldarelli there, but Mario kept it all under control. Brilliant drive between the two of them.
What can Bill learn from that? Do you think he knew he had left a big enough gap for Mario to go up the inside?
Yeah, I think he knows. I mean, he certainly, he's a wily old fox. He'll remember what happened here a couple of weeks ago when he did get taken advantage of and actually got turned in turn 5. So he doesn't want to throw it all away. So there's a point of no return if Mario's able to get down to the inside in that tight corner. He really desperately wants this win for the whole family. Chandler and his dad were just saying, yeah, they're content, but they want to win before the end of the season.
How much does it take from the tires to be as aggressive as Mario has had to be, especially running in the wake of the BMW?
It does. That's what really grinds them off when you're not getting that downforce. It's just sliding across the race surface, and it's like a cheese grater. No pun intended here, being in Wisconsin, but it just literally grates these front tires if you're getting that aero wash as you're turning through the corner.
Calvin, you've had worst puns.
Can't remember when, but you're probably right.
Coming down to the wire, Ellis leads 6.3 seconds. It's stagnated between Ellis and Pepper. Caldarelli more or less by himself in third. Then this fantastic scrap between Oberlin and Farnbacher. And Farnbacher closes in again. This is where he made hay last time.
Yeah, and this is where Farnbacher just got a huge run. Oh, tries to do it again, tries to time it. I'm not sure there's any real gain. Now that BMW's punching that hole in the air for that Acura to just drive up into. A bit further back this time.
Mario shows the nose, but Bill does not look threatened. This is a big development in the AM class. This is the class leader, and Onofrio Triarci has come in. Not sure what this one's all about. Let's hear from Shea.
Was that they had an issue during their refueling and the tank did not get full. They knew that they were going to have to come in and make another stop. They were just hoping that they would be able to come in for a splash once it was actually raining. The radar, though, is looking like we're going to be safe to the end of the race, meaning the Ferrari had to make the trip down the pit lane for fuel only.
Did have a pretty big gap over the other car in the class. Safron is now driving. Should, I think, be able to hang on to that position, but we'll have to wait and see for sure. Thank you, though, for the update, Shea, with less than 12 minutes to go in this one. A little extra drama for the AM class points leaders and race leaders as well. This battle not going anywhere. How good have these two been?
Really good. Northman's car's really putting the power down well. Doesn't squirm around as he goes to the loud pedal coming off some of these corners. Mario is so committed here, just trying to figure out the puzzle here. How do I get around the legend Bill Oberlin and grab that win here this afternoon?
Having watched them now for several laps, is there a place that the NSX does appear to have the edge?
Well, certainly when he got through turn 3 like he did a couple of laps ago, that's a big advantage to get that run down the moraine sweep and then really set up Bill into that brake zone. It's so hard to defend there because if you go super tight to the left-hand side, you're just going to get the undercut as you come off in terms of the over-under from the car behind you. So this is really a critical corner.
And
Mario gets the run.
Yes, he did. This is even better than the last one because he didn't drop a wheel. Oberlin will defend the inside. Here comes Farnbacher to the outside, door to door in the run to turn 5. Oberlin, Farnbacher, who will be last on the brakes? It's Farnbacher in the Acura. Can he slow it down? Yes, he can. Racer's edge to the lead.
Wow. What a monster brake zone there for Mario Farnbacher. Looked like he'd gotten in there a little bit too deep. Kept the car underneath him. Beautiful job. And that was turn 3. That's where he seemed to be strong, wasn't it? A couple of laps ago we'd seen it. Lap before he didn't quite nail it, and that time he did.
Now one last hurdle to clear. There is some lap traffic up ahead. That is the James Safronis driven GMG Racing Porsche just up the road next. Triarci, Stavely as well, still to come. They'll have to work their way through.
He's just got understeering that car. Looks like he's got it through the carousel, but fortunately for him, up until this lap, Mario was getting that aero wash from him, so he couldn't do anything with it. But now with Mario out front, it's probably going to turn the advantage around to Farnbacher in terms of pace.
Farnbacher clears that traffic, no problem. And in fact, he is starting to escape Bill Oberlin even before the traffic came into the picture. Bill fought on gamely, but ultimately I don't think he had quite enough at his disposal.
Up front, Ellis controlling things now to the tune of 7.5 seconds over Jordan Pepper, who continues to run in P2. Teammate Caldarelli rounds out the podium at this stage of the game.
On board with Ellis, who continues this sublime drive up at the very front. Now, they have won in their class this year, but it was just a class win. It was not an overall win, and they very much would like to rectify that. They're less than 10 minutes away.
Yeah, just super smooth behind the wheel. I mean, there's a little bit of movement with the power steering as you're coming down through some of these corners where the hands move around. But even so, just compared to a lot of the other drivers aboard one of the Mercedes, really impressed with Philip Ellis and how he deals with the grip of that Mercedes AMG. Brilliant run by Pepper, though. I mean, they know that the Lamborghini is not a great track for them. And he's really getting a maximum result, I think, from the day.
This would match the best result of the season since switching to this car. He drove alongside Caldarelli in the #1 at Sonoma, and they swept the weekend there. Since then, he's finished no better than second in class, and that was in the first race of the weekend at NOLA back in May.
You have to give a shout out to his teammate. I mean, this result was really set up by Misha's opening stanza and his qualifying runners as well this morning. So that's all about the combination with the Pro-Am pairing. I think the other thing is when you think about setting a car up, I mean, I think Morella's got a little bit more experience than Misha Goldberg, so maybe this one car could be a little bit edgier. So for Jordan, I'm sure sometimes his performance is compromised a bit by making a car that's comfortable for Misha to drive and maybe not have the outright pace that they could maybe ring out.
Call attention to the fact that Jan Halen continues to lap at a good pace. He just did a 2:07.8. Compare that to Bill Auberlin's 2:09.7. And there's not a massive gap between the two. So Jan Halen in the Porsche ahead of this one is starting to close down on the BMW driver for second in class. That is the gap right there with still 7 minutes to go.
That could be huge, those extra points. They're only 21 points back coming into this race here today, and with the CrowdStrike entry not going to score any points, big opportunities.
Absolutely. All three of these cars running first, second, and third in Pro-Am, they are viewing this as their chance to get back in the title hunt because of the misfortune for Brown and Kurtz. And they're running 1, 2, 3, but there is a big delta between the points you get for first and second relative to the payoff difference between second and third, third and fourth, etc. It's a 7-point gap first to second, so it's a big swing. And Farnbacher and Harrison really need every point they can get to truly be back in the mix. If they can hold on to this, they'll be right there.
Yeah, but I love that point structure. It mimics Formula One. I'm not sure who did it first, but it rewards wins. You know, it's a big delta, 7 points. That's how it should be. Bit of cream on the top of a nice day.
I understand that the pit stop for the Triarci guys is under review. They did hold on to the lead in class.
If that was for that top up on fuel, maybe goggles or something. I didn't see anything amiss, but this is something for that second stop today, maybe not the first.
That is what I believe to be the case. The message from race control is the final pit stop is under review. So I think you're spot on. Just what they might have caught is anyone's guess. We'll pass that information along when we receive it. How about this day? It became a lot easier, it's worth noting, when Stephen Agakani had his crash on that first lap. Though that car and this one, they have been the class of the field all weekend. But it's not like Ellis and Ward haven't had to work for it, especially with Ward's stint. There were several restarts, and he was picture perfect on each of them.
Yeah, he's just gained so much confidence. I mean, he's really, he wants to be challenged. He wants to learn the trade. He wants to be put up against the best of the best. He has no problem running in this pro class. And his opportunities like that to really showcase where am I at now in my learning curve, and having the confidence to get up on the wheel, control those restarts, and lead nicely was a big day for him.
Just did a 2:07 flat on the last lap. That is deep into his stint, putting a lot of laps on these tires when you consider that everyone pitted at the very front of the pit window.
The tire deck was big here in practice, and maybe it's starting to rub in a little bit now, Ryan, because to only be 1.2 seconds off your best on a long green flag run here. It's very impressive for this Pirelli tire. I mean, teams were talking about 4 or 5 second delta. We saw it yesterday. We went out and watched, and we were looking at the timing and scoring at the same time. Fastest time of the practices had been a 2:05. There was no one under a 2:11 when we were watching late in the day yesterday.
That is the gap, visually and audibly, between Ellis and Pepper. Good day all in all for these two. And how about it? Once again, on a weekend where it looks like K-Pax is off in the weeds somewhere coming into the race, it took, what, 3 corners and they were running second and third again. It's amazing how they managed to do that.
Yeah, they always look so vulnerable. Well, not always. On occasion, they look vulnerable, and somehow they still execute and get the most out of the day. And that's what championship teams do. They just focus on what they can control, let the others make little mistakes, and let the game come their way.
Well, what they did at Spa in the 24-hour race a month ago, I think answered any questions about just how good this team is that may have been lingering, because, I mean, we could put the pole that they won and then lost to a technical infraction aside. What they did in the race to race their way from, I think it was 30th on the grid, up to the very front before they had a couple of things out of their control go amiss against what is the strongest, deepest GT3 field in any race in the world, I think it's safe to say, with nearly 70 cars that took the green flag there at Spa, and with the very best teams globally taking part. That shows just how strong this K-Pax team has been, and anyone who's followed this championship going back to the Pirelli World Challenge days, they've known this to be true, but on a truly global stage, that was an impressive showing.
Yeah, I mean, they don't need to prove themselves. I mean, they've done it a million times before, but it was certainly a nice statement to make going over there and being so competitive, putting such a fast race car on the track, having great strategy as well. So, yeah, they can compete at this level with the best in the game. Doesn't matter what continent you're on, they're going to be right at the front.
Look at this. Jan Halen has closed in the gap. It's down less than 2 seconds now. The speed disparity we chronicled earlier, I don't think it was as extreme as that one lap would indicate. That was when Oberlin was working through some lap traffic. The following lap, Halen caught that traffic and lost a little bit of time too, but even factoring that in, Halen has been quicker and is closing that down. The question is there enough time? With just 90 seconds on the clock, the white flag should come out the next time by.
Yeah, and these guys have really been duking it out in various championships over the last 2 or 3 years. Halen come out on top on a GT4 championship that went right down to the wire with Bill Oberlin last year, so they know each other well, they respect each other, but up front, brilliant day for Winwood, it looks like.
Absolutely, just about perfection. With just over 4 miles to go out of turn 14 for the penultimate time. Here comes Philip Ellis up the hill to take the white flag at Road America, just 14 turns away from their first overall win of the year in Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS.
10+ second lead, beautifully managed here by Philip. Set up by his teammate with the pole and a great opening stanza. Weather has not become a factor. It's just skirted around us amazingly well. I've been looking at the radar. It's so close, but really hasn't laid its footprint on the circuit here this afternoon.
Pro-Am leaders, Racer's Edge, Mario Farnbacher. How many laps did he have to work on Bill Oberlin to make that move? 8, 10, 12? Yeah. Felt like half the race.
But just super smart driving. Just really, really quality stuff. Wringing the Acura's neck, dealing with the aero wash. I think he was feeling from the BMW directly in front of him. And he's not that far back here from Caldarelli. It doesn't really matter in terms of points. It's going to be a big day for them. They're going to cut into that lead that Colin Brown and George Kurtz had coming into this weekend. It's going to bring a lot of these players back in the game for the championship in Pro-Am.
Makes things really interesting when you look at what's to come. Another race tomorrow, and then 2 in Sebring, and it all wraps up at the Indianapolis 8-hour. An 8-hour race. This year, all 8 hours count towards points, unlike what we've seen in years past where points were paid after 3 hours towards the American Championship. And I believe it's double points there in the season finale too, so still a lot to play for. That Pro-Am class constricting in on itself, setting the stage for what figures to be a dramatic fight to the finish. This car's not in the championship picture. It's been a partial season for Windward. They've been strong when they've been on the grid, but luck hasn't always been on their side. Well, there was nothing derailing this run today as Philip Ellis climbs the hill. He and Russell Ward take their first overall win of the season in race 1 at Road America.
Awesome day. This is a team that has worked so hard, have a lot going on, but they continue to operate at the highest level despite that workload. And big day for Jordan Pepper runs across the line in second.
And for Ashton Harrison and Mario Farnbacher, this figures to be win number 2 on the season. They are right back in the Pro-Am Championship picture. Harrison, Farnbacher, and Racer's Edge come out on top in Pro-Am.
That was mega. They didn't start so well after qualifying, but boy, they took advantage. And at the line, Albin just comes across to claim P2 in Pro-Am with Palin right on his tail.
Half a second, all that separated those two. I'm not so sure it wouldn't have been a different result had we gone one more lap, but 90 minutes is the distance. Or is the time, I suppose. Elapsed, and here we go. I have not seen what race control had to say about that pit stop that was under review, but pending something post-race, it is set to be another class win for Onofrio Triarsi and Charlie Scardina, who ran among the front runners in each of their stints at various points. Had that miscue in pit lane, but were so strong, had a big enough lead that even a second pit stop for a splash of fuel was not enough, again barring the penalty, to undo all their good work earlier, and they appear primed for another win.
Yeah, I think they've taken this AM class to a whole new level this year. The team operation and certainly the driver's performance. Great day for them.
Now, speaking of driver performance, I know a lot in the world of sports car racing relative to driver rankings is going to be under review, and I suspect Charlie Scardina's driver ranking might be under review, pending just how good this season has proven to be for him and this whole team. But that's for another day. For now, up the hill they come. Triarsi Competizione, Charlie Scardina and Onofrio Triarsi win the AM class at America's National Park of Speed. Phenomenal stuff. Road America simply never disappoints.
Oh, that's awesome. It's a great track just to drive, and just the racing that it also provides is amazing. Good little battle there that we saw for the first time, really, in its true colors between Jordan Pepper and Calderelli, last year's co-champions. Pepper will enjoyed that one. Andrea not so much.
Jordan also with the extra feather in his cap. CrowdStrike fastest lap of the race, 2:05.837. Just fractionally quicker than Philip Ellis in the winning car. What a memorable pass Pepper put on Andrea Caldarelli to take second spot and the intra-team bragging rights. That's one that he'll be telling his grandkids about one day. Sit on my lap. Let me tell you about the time I was sideways into turn 5 at Road America with Andrea Caldarelli. Provisional results from race 1. Philip Ellis and Russell Ward at the very top. Great win for them. Second in class, first overall. Goigberg and Pepper come home P2. Beretta, Caldarelli complete the podium. Then it's Harrison and Farnbacher on a big day for them from a points perspective. They finish ahead of Oberlin and Hull. So close, but still in search of that first win of the season. Halen and Luck doing what they do, keeping the nose clean, and they're on the podium at the end of the day. Brian Sellers and Scott Smithson matched a season best 4th place with the result here today, ahead of Dirk Muller and David Askew. Strong top 5 for that pairing.
But boy, that Pro-Am Championship is really going to close up here tonight with the problems for George Kurtz there on the opening lap. Had nowhere to go, essentially. Innocent bystander, but takes the championship leaders out. They score 0 points, and everyone else who's chasing them on the podium today.
Yeah, that will be a big hit for them in the points. Don't even complete a lap. Same for Michael Dinan and Robbie Foley and the Turner team. Same for Stephen Agakani and Laura Spinelli and the U.S. Racetronics team, and they have to hope that that car is repairable because they're set to start on pole tomorrow with Loris Spinelli, but that car definitely took a few big shots in that lap 1, turn 3 accident at the very start of the race here today. And apologies for some spicy language from Jordan Pepper, sharing a few words there with Philip Ellis. Can't wait to hear from Philip, but a lot of mutual admiration there, you could tell, with the likes of Pepper and Ellis there. Down to the grid and victory circle, in fact, with Shea.
And a couple of very happy drivers. Now, Mario, you were in the car, so you weren't able to see the emotion that Ashton was giving, but that pass on Bill Oberlin, I think, took years off her life. How hard was it for you?
It was difficult. I mean, these cars with downforce take quite a bit downforce of the car, especially of the front, and you can't really follow close. So it was really hard to maintain close to him and not destroying the tires in the front. But I could see that his tires went away quite a bit, so I was waiting a little bit and tried to keep like close distance, and I knew at one point I need to take the chance and get by him.
Ashton, great day for championship points. You and Mario now moving up a little bit more. Is that what you're thinking at the end of this one?
Yes, I mean, our goal long-term is the championship. Wins help us with that, and we've had a bit of unfortunate luck the last couple rounds, so this is well-deserved to us, the team. I mean, Racers Edge gave us a really great car, and it was an exciting race the whole entire time. He did take years off my life, and I saw the camera looking at me. I'm like, what face are they going to get this next time? But I'm so excited for Harrison Contracting and for Acura and Honda HPD. I mean, this is an incredible win for them. I'm really excited.
Congrats to you both. Let's see if you can do it again tomorrow.
Thank you.
Such a cool story, too, with Ashton having gone through the HPD GT3 Academy, where one of her coaches last year was Mario Farnbacher. Now a chance to share the car together, and what a season it's been. 2 wins and 5 podiums on the year. As we look at the points coming out of race 1 in the Pro-Am standings, look how tight this is. Just 6 between the top 2 tandems, and right there, only 21 points further back, Harrison and Farnbacher, they're very much in the mix. And Oberlin and Hull, they've got some work to do, but it's not out of the question.
Yeah, they're hanging in there. The win today would have been massive, right? I mean, they lost 8 points with that one move that Mario made on Bill Oberlin. So they'll try and regroup tonight, see if they can tune on that BMW, make it a little bit stronger on the longer green flag run tomorrow.
And again, disappointing not to have Ryan Dial and Justin Wetherell here. Hope to see them at the next race in Sebring. Back down to victory circle and Shea.
It's another win for Windward Racing, but thankfully this time overall, finally, it's got to feel good. Philip, start with you. The end of that race, the pressure was starting to build from the Lamborghinis behind, but you weren't paying any attention to that, were you?
To be honest, I was a little bit. So actually I tried to conserve my tires as much as I can in case they do come up to me. And then thankfully they couldn't hold up the pace for too long, which was good for us as well because we were starting to struggle a lot on the tire. But yeah, you know, as I said, super happy that finally it worked overall here as well, especially after being on the same spot 2 weeks ago. So I guess the track suits us quite a lot. We know what to do here, and we'll try to do the same tomorrow.
Russell, is a very eventful start for you up at the head of the grid. How grateful were you for that pole position after you saw the carnage unfold behind?
Yeah, I mean, just hats off to the crew. I mean, they gave us an awesome car, and you can't drive it that fast unless it's put together properly. So, you know, hats off to them, and it just feels good, and it's redemption from last year as well, because last year we had the pace to win this, and you know we had some issues with the refueling system, and you know this just shows the improvement of the team race by race. You know, we're sorting these issues out, and we come back and you know get the most out of the car, most out of the track every time. So really proud of the crew, and awesome job by Philip here.
Overall winners for the first time, but definitely not the last.
No, I think you're exactly right. And you look at their last 4 races, keep in mind they didn't run at NOLA or VIR, but it's 4 straight podiums now in the races that they have entered. Second at Sonoma Race 2, third Watkins Glen Race 1, first Watkins Glen Race 2, now first overall here at Road America. These are the point standings, and Andrea Caldarelli continues to hold a healthy margin over Jordan Pepper, but it gets a bit tight further back with Beretta, Goikhberg, and and Spinelli and Agakani missed opportunity here today with a very good car out way too soon.
Yeah, and a shame for the Turner boys as well. They got 0 points today with Dynan being involved in that incident down in turn 3. So they got a rebound. Hopefully that car is fixable for action here tomorrow.
Fingers crossed, that is for sure, with the race coming up right around 1 o'clock tomorrow local time. Back down for our AM winners with Shay.
And it's the Triarci Ferrari that's on top, podium once again for the AM class. But this time, it was a bit harder of a race out there. You actually had people to battle with, not only within your own class, but further up the field as well.
Yeah, it definitely was a challenge out there. You know, it was a lot to drive the car. It's a great track. We had a lot of fun out there and just wanted to keep it clean so we can finish off this championship strong.
And Charlie, we talked about it in the race. That's exactly what the goal has been all year. But how satisfying is it to now have one race done this weekend and be one step closer to that championship goal?
When we have it done, I'll let you know. How about that, okay?
That's a deal. Congratulations, guys.
Thank you so much, Shay. Thank you.
It's been a great season, that's for sure, for those two against a couple different challengers at various times, and they've always risen to the occasion, as we saw just over the course of the last 90 minutes. Highlights from race 1 of the weekend. Russell Ward on pole was able to sprint away, and as we're about to see, that was pretty important. But first, watch Michele Beretta around the outside.
Yeah, that was a bold move there by the two Lamborghinis, getting good track position, and then the carnage flew here, exiting turn 3, look up ahead, Agakani loses it, and just the resulting contact with Michael Dynan there, evasive action behind, George Kurtz, Aaron Vogel involved. Kurtz would see no further action. There's the impact with Dynan, just nowhere to go.
Very unfortunate, and we hope that car can resume action tomorrow. Great duels, though, throughout this field. And this was Charlie Luck and Ashton Harrison fighting it out during their stints. A little bit later, we saw real-time in DXDT. That was Dirk Moeller going around Michael
this.
Cooper. But yeah, this was the move of the race.
Woo, that was so close. Jordan tried to break right with Caldarelli, and he had to go for it. He had nowhere to go other than run over the top of his teammate. Then a brilliant move that really got set up with a great exit speed off of turn 3 for Farnbacher to grab the Pro-Am win.
That had been about 25 minutes in the making. Crossing the line first, though, Windward Racing gets their first overall win of the season for Pro-Am. Honors go to Racer's Edge, while Triarci Competizione got the job done in the AM class. Fantastic stuff here today for Race 1 from Road America. As mentioned, we'll do it all over again tomorrow. Race 2 set to start right around 1 o'clock local time here in the Central Time Zone in Wisconsin on all these same streaming outlets, as well as CBS Sports Network here in the U.S. Hope you join us for that. For Shay and Calvin, I'm Ryan saying so long for now from Road America.